Hi everybody, Jonathan here, and today I wanted to take a look at the Empire of Japan in this version of Axis and Allies Revised. Now, when it comes to Japan, there are a couple general strategies, general things that I try to keep in mind when I play it. The biggest one is that I want to push into Asia as quickly as possible. I firmly believe that in 90% of games, the winner is decided here. The winner is decided in the Soviet Union. Can the Central Powers, I'm sorry, not the Central Powers, I've been playing too much 1914. Can the Axis powers take Moscow before either one of their capitals is in danger from an Allied assault? If they can, they typically win. If they're either too slow or the Allies move too quickly to threaten the capitals or move too quickly to shore up the Soviet Union, then the Allies win. Typically, I have found in this game that it is imbalanced in favor of the Allies, so it's the latter that happens more often than not. But I have seen the Axis powers win quite a few games as well. So, when it comes to Japan, you go fourth in turn order, fourth out of five, which means most of the other countries have gone before you, and what you do will be impacted by that. Should the Soviet Union leave themselves open up here, you might push forward. You do have a battleship. You'll probably only have one transport to help you. But if you can take that, then that means you don't need to reinforce Manchuria, so that's an option. If you want to know what happens to that other transport, just watch the British video. It's a pretty standard attack for England to attack and take it out. Can't count on that as Japan. Can't count on having it, I mean. You can count on it being attacked and probably lost. And typically, the Soviet Union is not going to leave that open, but it's something you want to be on the lookout for if you can press forward a little bit faster. You are normally going to want to attack China. Now, if it only has its starting units, you can usually take it easily enough. If the British moved their fighter from here up and landed it up there, it'll be a little bit tougher, but you probably can still take it. Just make sure you send in plenty of infantry to soak up hits. And don't forget that you have some Air Force up here. Both this fighter and this bomber can go into that combat if you need it to. Now, down south, if India has been left open, by all means you want to attack it. If not, you might consider devoting an infantry or so up here to help with this and just holding the line between French Indochina and India on the first turn. Also remember that if you want to, you've got some fighters on your carriers over here. You could shift them this way if you don't need them for anything else. Now, depending on what England does with its navy, you might need to hunt it down a little bit, maybe up here if it puts its destroyer there, or its carrier, or both. You potentially could have this British Navy to deal with, and then of course you've got the American Navy. Now, the British Navy here is the least threat, not only because it's smallest, but also because it can't really do a whole lot. In terms of attack power, it is one sub, that's it. And you've got a couple destroyers, you've got a couple battleships, you can deal with that. The transport can be kind of annoying, but England is also very limited in terms of the number of troops that it has. And right now, it's all infantry unless it wants to sweep up here and has a factory there and pick up tanks or something like that, which you're going to see way ahead of time. So what I like to do is to take out this American fleet. Yes, we are attacking it, and it is better on defense than offense, because the carrier defends at 3, attacks at 1, and the fighter attacks at 3 and defends at 4. But if we take it out, it means that the U.S. can't consolidate its fleet or its specific fleet and be in an even stronger defensive position. It also means that the U.S. player is more especially a less experienced one, is more likely to feel like they're losing in the Pacific and want to devote resources here. And if the US is splitting its resources between Pacific and Atlantic, it's not going to be nearly as effective on either front as if it devoted all of its resources to one or the other. Now, that does put a little bit more pressure on Japan, but Japan's production, a few turns in the game, is going to be based in this over here. So if the US builds up its fleet a little bit more, Japanese production isn't really going to be threatened in a big way. They might land up here. These territories are only worth one. As long as the Americans don't overrun the Japanese Navy, Japan's probably going to be fine for quite a few rounds. Plus, if the US starts building up, Japan just needs to build up a little bit more Navy over here. And they might consider going with a few subs, because subs can be very effective. The Americans may counter with a destroyer, but the destroyer is likely to take a hit fairly early in combat, and then your subs will get that full, fuller effect. But in any case, you'll be able to see the Americans coming from at least 2 turns away. You're probably going to be okay, and it's really just about countering, moving yourself where you need to counter their fleet and match them, and you have a head start on that fleet early in game, especially if you take this out. It'll take them a few turns just to catch up, and so you can devote just small amounts of resources to just keep that edge for several turns. In the meantime, you're pushing in here. You're probably going to end up with a border that in somewhere around India or Persia, probably goes up to Kazakhstan, Novosibirsk, and Ivanti National Okrug. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that territory, to be honest. But you're probably going to end up with a front that stretches along here, give or take a territory or two, across the border, while Germany's pushing in this way. And if you've held the Americans off, you've held them at bay or slowed them down dramatically, while you positioned yourself in this way, and if Germany's made good progress because it doesn't have to face the full force of the United States while it's trying to fight Russia and England, then it's probably pushing up against the border as well. You're probably going to win that game. Overall, because I like to focus on moving into Asia quickly, I like to build a factory on the first turn and then replace my destroyed transport. I may devote some resources second, third, or fourth turn in just to building a little bit of Navy if the U.S. is focusing on me. If the U.S. is not focusing on Japan, I would devote all my production into Asia. The factory allows me to produce quickly, and the place that I like to put it starting off, assuming I can easily defend it the first turn, is French Indochina, because it can quickly give me access to India. I can get access to Africa over here, and I can threaten the most strategic Soviet territory, the Caucasus. Now, maybe in a game where I don't feel like Indochina is as defensible on the first turn, or given that the price of a factory, England might decide to be a little aggressive and try and take it out. The other alternative is up here. That's probably the second best place. You can still pour into China, as you can from French Indochina, but instead of getting your 3 production moving into Africa and threatening the south, you are threatening the north, which is a little bit slower. These territories aren't worth quite as much, and you can't really threaten the Caucasus down here. You're probably going to get up to about this point, and then you'll have to deal with the massive units that Russia will be trying to put in Moscow. So that's the second best place to put it. You could put it in Kwangtung, but it takes one move just to get up to here, one move just to get to India, and one move just to get to the edge of China. So strategically, that's the worst of the 3 places to put it, but having a factory, getting 3 units per turn on the mainland is still a nice thing to have going for you. And then I get the transport, which will help early in game, help ferry units across. It'll also help if the U.S. isn't paying attention because it's focused on Germany and you want to prod it a little bit, try and pull some resources away from the Atlantic. You can always take Hawaii, take Alaska, either of those territories puts you in striking distance of the western United States, you can cause some real trouble for the United States if they aren't paying attention. Plus, you've got a couple battleships, you get some coastal bombardments, so it can be kind of risky for the U.S. to just play minimal over here when you're in striking distance. Having a couple transports on your side also helps you later in game as you swing around, take New Guinea and or Borneo back if the British decide to attack those territories. You can also grab some more stuff from England, New Zealand, Australia, and if you are already moving into Africa this way, you can have a double pincered attack with your transports loading up in South Africa or somewhere along the coast here and moving up. If your factory is up here and you're moving this way into the Soviet Union, you could still get in on the African action with your transports here. So it's really a combined assault. I played some games going all factories, some games going all transports. They both have some advantages and disadvantages. Overall, at least on the first turn, I like to get one of each and then just kind of play it by ear. Where are my forces needed? Where is the attention being placed? If the U.S. is focusing on me, I might go with an extra transport here and there because they can soak up hits and they do defend at 1, so it's nice to have those in my Navy. So that's just an overview of how I view Japan, the objectives that I set out with when playing that country, the things that I try to keep in mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd let me know with a thumbs up or a comment in the comment section. If you have anything that you'd like to ask, any strategies of your own you'd like to present or like me to take a look at, feel free to leave those in the comment section as well. I do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video.